Howdy, I'm Brandon, 27 from South Australia, and this is 5 lessons I've learned from reading over 500 books. So the first lesson is that books don't teach me anything. I've spent a lot of my life just reading so many books for the sake of becoming smarter, for becoming better, for becoming more knowledgeable. But I realized, it's pointless. So what do I mean by that? Well, we need to break down what a book really is. A book is just words on a page. Those words are pointing to something. Until I act on what those words are pointing to, or understand what it is that those words are pointing to, then I haven't learned anything. Let's take the example of an apple. Apple is just a word. The word points to something. When I say apple, you probably think of this big red ball-like thing that you eat and it tastes sweet. But you can't know what that is unless you've held an apple, ate an apple, etc., etc. You've had a direct experience of the apple. Now you understand what the apple is. But even that, if we take it a layer deeper, I don't want to confuse you here, but if we take it a layer deeper, notice how we've just described the apple. But what actually is the apple? We can only say kind of what it tastes like. It tastes sweet. It looks red. But even the word red is a pointer to something. Unless you've experienced red, you can't know what red is. Just like a blind person has no idea what you mean when you say red until they have a direct experience of red.
So being blind since birth, I've never seen color. I don't have any concept of what it is. I mean, I've never seen anything. So when somebody says something's red to me, I don't quite get it.
So let's say they did experience red. Well, they can see it, but what actually is red? You'll notice that you'll never be able to come up with an answer, so you can't actually ever learn anything if we're talking on a very deep and absolute level. So when it comes to reading books, if you just read about an apple and you read that it's sweet and that it's red, you don't know what an apple is. You've just got an idea about the apple. Let's have a look at another example. If I'm reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, all about inner peace, and let's say I read a line in his book and it says, "Peace is your true nature." Now I can read that and I could say, oh yeah, I understand that. Of course, peace is my true nature. And then I could go around all day telling myself peace is my true nature. And it may be a comforting thought, but that's all it is, a comforting thought. It isn't actually true understanding until I directly experience peace is my true nature. Eckhart Tolle is speaking from a place of conviction, from experience. But until then, if I just read those pages on the book, turn it into an idea, and then keep repeating that idea to myself, then I'm essentially just a foolish parrot. I'm a parrot that doesn't truly understand, but tells himself he understands. Coming back to the original lesson, books don't teach me anything. It's direct experience that teaches me. The second lesson I've learned is that hoarding knowledge does not make me wiser. Now, a big reason I picked up reading and have kept reading is because I feel I'm becoming smarter when I read more books. I've meticulously tracked over 500 books since 2013, when I was, I think, about 17 years old. And, there's all these little dopamine hits, I get from like ticking off a box for reading a book. When I truly examined my motives as to why I was tracking all these books and doing all this reading, I was just doing it to accumulate knowledge for the sake of becoming smarter, or even appearing smarter. Am I smart now? It's a foolish game. It's really quite silly, and that's not to say there's anything inherently wrong with that. And I'm not saying about what you should or shouldn't do. I've just learned in my experience that reading for the sake of reading and for the sake of becoming smarter, I'm not becoming wiser. I'm just hoarding information. So I think it's important to go into what is knowledge. What is knowledge?
Knowledge.
Knowledge is information. Information by itself is just information. And when you're reading and extracting this information from the books, it's, let's say, going into your brain, and it's just sitting there as information. So you could parrot it to someone else, but it's just, that's all empty. The idea of information is basically to use it so you can understand or achieve something. Otherwise, it's just dead. It's just nothing. It's just dust. So How I approach reading now is just to purely understand. Storing knowledge in my head is like storing potatoes in my garage for when the global food crisis comes, when Klaus Schwab takes over the world, but never actually eating the potatoes. Something like that. So knowledge only becomes wisdom when it's applied successfully or fully understood through direct experience. If I read all about nootropics and smart drugs, and I read about the benefits without ever having tried them myself, not saying you should or shouldn't, by the way, then how can I truly understand them? I'm just sort of taking someone's word for it. I don't truly understand. It's just sort of a piece of knowledge or just floating information. I'm not any wiser for reading this. I just now pretend I know something and I could parrot it to others so I look smart. But I don't know. I've never tried the nootropic. I don't know. I have no idea. Even scientific studies, if they say, if you take this nootropic, you'll become 36% smarter on average, you still don't actually know that. Scientific studies aren't the truth.
You're attacking science.
Scientific studies aren't understanding. You have to go through direct experience to understand it yourself. Otherwise, it's just existing as an idea.
You're attacking science.
Even scientific studies might get some heat for this, that's okay. But scientific studies, they're really just an idea in your head. When I look at a scientific study on a screen, I'm looking at more information that someone's written. And there's so many built-in assumptions that these people are correct. Oh, look, this is how they conducted the experiment, etc., etc. That's all still ideas in my head. Notice how that's just a concept arising in this moment, and that's all it is. Just a thought. Just a thought. So this sort of stuff goes deeper, but that kind of goes outside the scope of this video, so we'll keep going. The third lesson I've learned is that reading books isn't necessarily better than other sources. You can learn just as much from a book as you can from a video. But notice that books, videos, images, they're all forms of communication. They're attempting to communicate an idea to you, or even an experience. The reason I like to read books is because I love that, someone's put like 20 years of their work into a book. They've really sat down, maybe spent a few years just writing it, editing it, perfecting it, so that they can really convey their ideas in the best way possible. I feel they're more carefully curated than other sources of information. So anyone can kind of go on a YouTube video and 5 minutes and talk about something. But I find books have just been the thing I've got the most value from. With that said, you could have someone with 30 years of understanding in their field. Like maybe there's a gardener, they've been doing gardening for 30 years and they can just slap on a video, 5 minutes, absolutely nail it because they know what they're talking about, and that understanding gets transferred to me. I sort of hear what they're saying, and then I go out and try and grow an apple myself or grow a potato, and it works, and I go, wow, what a great video that was. So, videos aren't to be underlooked either, or any source of information. It's just what's going to lead you to understanding. I would say, yeah, there's some information sources other than books that I found to be even more valuable in my personal experience, which I won't be speaking about today. But yeah, experiment, see what works for you. Now for the fourth lesson. My biggest leaps in personal growth have come from examining basic assumptions about life. Those things you'd never even think to ask because it's just an assumed reality. So for example, here's some assumptions I've found that I've just assumed my whole entire life until I put them under the microscope. So one is that the past exists, the future exists, I exist, I was born, I die. Now we all go around assuming these are true. Like it's something you may not even think to question. Because you're on this channel, maybe you have actually questioned some of these. But until they're questioned so thoroughly to where the point you come to a full understanding that they are indeed false, then we're still kind of playing around with ideas. But the main point here is that, yeah, I've learned by uncovering these assumptions and beliefs you'd never think to question, it leads to profound levels of growth. More than any smart drug or anything that could ever give me, this is what I found to be like the biggest factor in my personal growth. let's just take one example without going too crazy deep into this, otherwise this is going to be a very long video. The assumption that the past exists. Okay, so we often tell ourselves throughout the day to other people, oh yeah, yesterday I went to Harry's birthday party and we got so drunk, man, or we read tons of books, man, because that's what you do, right? When you're in your 20s, you hang out and you read books together. You know, you tell yourself that yesterday you're at the library and you read a book, but did you? Or is that just a memory occurring now in the present moment? And there actually is no such thing as past. It's just illusory. It's an illusion. It is an assumption that you keep telling yourself and you have ever since you were born.
The present is the only real time. There is no past, and there isn't a future.
Really consider that the past and the future are merely memory and imagination occurring in the present moment. And when that's truly understood, like, it will be a massive breakthrough. If you're saying you understand now, it may still just be a conceptual idea. It's very likely the case. But when you really pierce through the veil of the illusion of time, it's so absolutely apparent that all there ever is now. And this is what Eckhart Tolle is pointing to in his book, The Power of Now, and many other books and gurus and spiritual teachers, etc., and the deepest truths of religion, etc., etc. But the main point is just that questioning these unexamined assumptions have led to the biggest personal growth for me. And books have been a big part of that, to sort of pointing some out to me that if I didn't read the book, who knows how long it would take for me to come across, you know, those insights or those assumptions that I've been holding. One book for this that was very helpful was The Book of Not Knowing by Peter Rolston, Pursuing Consciousness by Peter Rolston, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So I'll leave those books in the description. The final lesson for this video, this one is so challenging to speak of. This one just takes my breath away. Lesson number 5 is that I believe God exists. I believe God exists. I don't say that I know God exists, but this is the path of understanding I'm on currently. It consumes my whole day. Now, this is coming from someone who's in the past been very obsessed with rationality and logic and all this sort of stuff. I've read by Richard Dawkins, The God Delusion, who is like the god of atheism. And a lot of it, you know, I was nodding my head to this book many years ago. Oh yeah, that makes sense. I've had a Christian upbringing, so, you know, you kind of just get fed this belief that, oh yep, God exists, and you kind of accept it unconsciously. So yeah, you know, I went on this big long pilgrimage to, you know, sort of question it. So yeah, anyway, over the years, especially in the last 2 years, man, this is a whole nother video, but basically what happened is I had this very joyous and blissful experience that just arose out of nowhere. I was at the beach one day about 2 years ago, and this feeling of joy just came upon me. It showered upon me. And for absolutely no reason, I felt so much joy, just frolicking in joy and high spirits and great energy for no reason. And it was this spark that really took me on this journey into what self-realization is. I don't have any really logic or rationality for this, but basically I just started binging on Osho books. Osho was sort of my first entry point in terms of another authority or another author or book or influencer, whatever you want to call it, that really affected just my whole life. After that experience, I knew there was something here in this whole spiritual stuff. The hippies are onto something. The core of religions is onto something. Jesus was saying something, but I hadn't fully understood yet. I know there's something here. Love. Unconditional love. Divine love. There is something here. I know it. I have to find out. There's so much to fill in here, but basically another next significant experience was my first experience of kensho. This is a word I find most accurately describes sort of the first awakening experience you have about the truth and nature of reality. Yeah, the first big kensho experience I had, I was once again on the beach with a bearded man I met in the Gold Coast, Australia, and I noticed he had this inner peace about him. I just knew. I could tell by his energy, and I sat down with a table with him thanks to his invitation. We got on this topic organically about spirituality, and I had learned that he had learned from a guru, and I was very interested, and so anyway, this could be a very long story, but basically I questioned the heck out of him. I tried to look for any bit of inauthenticity in him, and I couldn't find anything. I kept poking him, sort of questioning his understanding of stuff, and he just had this inner peace, this blankness to him, and there's something in him that I wanted, and I wanted to know, and I wanted to find out why he was so damn peaceful, god damn it. And anyway, after a lot of dialogue, I came to this realization that all this conflict I had in my head about philosophizing about Buddha and consciousness and everything, really trying to understand the mind about what all these spiritual gurus are saying about the ultimate truth and Eckhart Tolle about inner peace, it finally dawned on me that my own mind was the very source of the conflict I was looking to resolve. Oh man, it's the biggest fat belly laugh when it's really seen in that light. This is why that Buddha-like figure, that big fat belly man is laughing. I finally understood why. In that moment, I understood why, and that understanding carries on till this day. So if you go beyond the mind and really see it for what it is, then there's just peace. There's just contentment. There's just truth. There's just what is. So that was my first kensho experience. It was only later in another kensho experience where, for the first time, I saw fully and completely that the I, the sense of who I am, doesn't exist. So I want to make it clear here. It's not that I'm living in some delusional world that I don't exist. Yes, the body is here, the voice is here, all of this is still here. But the I, as I knew it, I am Brandon, I'm from South Australia, I'm 27, I'm some YouTube guy, that just got absolutely obliterated by the light of awareness. It was really seen for what it is. This is what Ramana Maharshi is pointing to with his question, who am I? This is what, from what I understand, all these meditation practices are pointing to or trying to get you to is to see that illusion of I. We've never really asked, who am I? And then sincerely investigated it to the point where we see it for what it truly is. Now that I've seen the illusory nature of myself, that doesn't mean I'm stopping here and stopping off all my learning and saying I know the ultimate truth. There's still patterns and ways in which I get caught up in my own mind. So, that's it. Number 5, I believe God exists. Thank you for watching. Peace.